Go Big 12 or go home. I'm Brandon Shanahan, joined as always by Drew Russell here on a Thursday night. Another great slate of Big 12 football in what's shaping up to be a very mediocre week throughout the college football landscape, but the Big 12 always entertaining. Drew Russell, how'd your weekend go?
Well, Brandon Shanahan, from an Iowa State perspective, it was rather sweet over the weekend. A really efficient victory over Arizona. That was a thing of beauty. Really wild week across the board when we dig into some of the scores, including a couple of nail biters for Big 12 teams or Big 12 games on Friday night of last week, and then going through Saturday. I mean, Brandon, great games, multiple one-score games, some games pulled out late. Couple of surprises, couple of games that we were expecting would play out as they did, but just Big 12 week in, week out, it really is a conference that continues to deliver on parity and entertainment.
Also got to give a shout out to our main man up top, Amos Alonso Stagg, the goat of goats. Did you know he was elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame? Not only does he have the most Big Ten wins in Big Ten football history by wide margin, not only was he a coach throughout the Chicago program, but yeah, Stagg was elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame in his first group of inductees in 1959. He's the GOAT.
How about that Amos Alonso Stagg? I mean, he coached, I think, like even a couple of years of like the University of Chicago baseball team too. Like this guy straight up said, I'm going to be a 3-sport collegiate coach. Pretty remarkable.
He's just a ball coach.
Guy just loves ball.
He
said to his wife, hold supper on the stove. I got to go coach ball. I'll see you and the kids at 9. And this guy, I just grinded 15 to 18 hours a day nonstop. Just a grinder. Loves his family, but he loved ball just as much, maybe at times more.
That's right.
That's our Amos. Amos is a great name. Amos is
I think that's what caught our attention was he's got the oldest name I've ever seen, Amos Alonso Stagg, and then just happens to be the most winning head football coach in Big Ten history.
He's a legend. I don't know. He's crazy. And I mean, we have to just, give shout outs to all legendary coaches, whether dead or alive. Amos, deservedly gets the love that he gets. And this podcast every year always wants to salute a coach big time. Often, but first 2 years, it was, a coach that was actually coaching. It's currently in the league, wherever. Amos, he might be done. He might be 6 feet under, but this podcast loves Amos Alonso Stagg.
That's right. I'm sure all the Big 12 football coaches are happy they don't have to coach against him. Great week for the league. Technically an undefeated week for the Big 12. I mean, now that we're in conference play, that stat means a lot less than it did a few weeks ago. But Houston took care of business against Oregon State, and what turned out to be a little bit of a knee late night in Corvallis. Oregon State's just desperate, frothing at the mouth to pick up a win like this. Houston fends them off in overtime.
They did. It was not pretty. And Oregon State, I mean, I thought they'd show some energy, Brandon, but I really thought Houston was going to coast in this game. I really did. And Oregon State came out. They had a great game plan, led at halftime, led throughout the majority of the game. But give Houston a lot of credit. Run game was not great at all. But Connor Wegman was able to make enough throws down the stretch. The defense was able to come up huge in overtime to hold Oregon State to a goose egg, keep that win column in a goose egg as well. And for Houston, let's just give the Cougars the proper credit that they deserve under Coach Fritz. Like, they are winning right now, and they are 4-0, and they do have a primetime game coming up this week at home against an undefeated team in state in Texas Tech. So for Houston, yes, was it pretty at all? Not even remotely. But they found a way to get it done. Really give them credit where it's due, because again, they didn't force any turnovers defensively, multiple turnovers offensively. Usually, almost always, that's going to be a losing formula, especially on the road. But they got it done, Brandon. Give them a lot of credit, and they continue to show a lot of mental fortitude under Coach Willie Fritz.
Yeah, and we've always talked about Houston kind of being this sleeping giant in the Big 12, just where they are recruiting wise. And I mean, it's a big school, so it's not like money's a huge issue. but obviously going from the American Athletic Conference to the Big 12 is a big jump. But this is the exact kind of game that they set the building block. I mean, they're down 2 scores early in the fourth quarter. On the it's probably midnight on their body clocks by the time that they go down 2 scores, but they get back with it, tie it up with 4 minutes to go, and then find a way to win in overtime. Like that's the win where you can go into the locker room and be like, "Hey guys, we didn't have it tonight. We didn't have our best stuff. We didn't have our best defense, our best offense, whatever. We missed opportunities, but we still found a way to get it done, and that's so valuable." And I'm starting to buy into Houston more and more. We'd hope that this would be the version of the Cougars that we'd seen once they made that switch over to Big 12, but finally starting to see it, and I'm juiced. I loved it.
I do too, Brandon. And I think for Houston Cougars, again, last year, that was year one under Coach Fritz after really disappointing seasons prior, and they found a way to really. It feels like their program is stabilizing a little bit. And yeah, they go 4-8 last year. But you felt like there were little pieces throughout where they were putting it together where they, do defeat Kansas State at home and put those pieces together. And they're clearly building off of that here in 2025. Again, I think coming into the season, we thought if Houston can be a bowl team, we view that as a good season. I think that continues to be the expectation. But they are ahead of schedule right now. And again, they have by far and away the best team that they've played this season in Texas Tech coming Saturday. That said, though, this is a really good, I think, barometer to see where the Houston program is. No one is expecting them to win, or not many people. So what they'll do on ESPN, I think, is going to be really interesting to see and see if they can build off of, at least surviving and see if they can learn from that as well.
Yeah, and just looking at the schedule for Houston, not exactly a smooth path. Obviously, Texas Tech comes into town. I mean, if you could find a way to win that game, then all bets are off. It would be the very poetic way for the Big 12 Conference to kick off October. But I mean, that's a tough ask. But you got Oklahoma State, you got Arizona at home. Those are 2 winnable games. You could look up in no time and be 6-1 going into Tempe, and then you still have teams like West Virginia, UCF on the schedule before you wrap up with the Texas road trips and TCU and Baylor. I mean, 7-8 wins isn't off the table for a team that went 4-8 last year. Still kind of feeling the ramifications of jumping up in competition. Watch out.
Watch out. I mean, again, games have to be played. They have to be put together. And I think the Big 12 continues to show that, I mean, I think in the past, Brandon, we've had, it feels like teams where it's like, that's a gimme win. That's a guaranteed win. I think Houston was on that. And, there are a couple teams, I think, in our conference right now where it does feel like you are going to be a heavy favorite. But on paper, you probably should take care of business against this team. But it also shows how quick you can change your program, especially in the NIL era. And I think you're looking at it even throughout college football as well. Look at where Vanderbilt is right now. They've got a college game day game coming up this week. And don't get me wrong, like a lot of it is they've reset a culture. They've reset some things in that Vanderbilt program. NIL, they're probably still in the lower half of the SEC. That said, though, Brandon, not only do you get a good education at Vanderbilt, you're in Nashville, and you also could potentially make some good money as well on the side through NIL. I think because they've got good players, they're winning right now. Look at where Indiana is in the Big Ten. Historically, not a good football program. A lot of losing in Bloomington. But in the world of NIL, in the world of you can readjust a team quickly if you find the right coach, find the right kind of people to help that funding for your program, you'll see that. And look, Houston, you and I are both, you said it a few minutes ago, Brandon, it is a sleeping giant. They do have a couple of major donors. It's the 4th largest city in the country. And yes, pro teams are going to get more interest than the collegiate team. Historically, that's usually how it works in major cities with a college team. But that said, they have a winner. The city is going to follow them. And you look at Houston basketball, that city loves Houston basketball. They love that team. They follow that team. They got a great, great interest in them. I think that football team can do the exact same thing. So I'm expecting a pretty healthy crowd on Saturday night. It should be a lot of fun. But for Houston football right now, definitely going the right way. And I think Coach Fritz really has found a situation that it seems like a perfect marriage as of right now between coach and school.
Not the only Friday night game. TCU head down to Tempe. I'm sure a lot of us were in bed by the time that we saw the score 17-0 halfway through the second. Now, the downside of jumping out to a 3-possession lead that early, still a lot of time left in the game. And Arizona State proved that they were up to the task, eventually pulled away and won 27-24. Josh Hoover, a rough night, 242 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. One of the worst games that we've seen out of him. And Arizona State, I mean, we talked about this game a little bit in our pick 'em, just where they're at in their season and how Arizona State's desperate to stay afloat, how TCU's been great. And they, you could make the argument that they look like the better team, but, is this a game where they're a little bit sleepier than the hungry Sun Devils? And I mean, that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I mean, TCU got out to a fabulous start, Brandon. I mean, they were well in the control of the game in the first half. But, the two things stood out to me really on both sides of the football, starting with TCU. I mean, Josh Hoover had the 2 interceptions, heavily disappointing. Their run game and their offensive line, though, Brandon, was not good. And that's some of the credits, obviously, to Arizona State. Great work from the front 7, 6 sacks, 13 tackles for loss on the night. That's traditionally going to get it done. But from TCU's standpoint, you can't allow that. As a team, Brandon, 25 carries for just 10 yards on the night. And again, their 2 top running backs, Trent Battle, 9 carries, 30 yards. Jeremy Payne, 6 carries, 20 yards. Both had touchdown, but in general, not getting enough to that running game. On the other side, Arizona State just wore them down. Again, they ran the ball 44 times for 207 yards. Sam Levitt was able to throw it for 39 times. I think really it came down to just a world of conditioning. Not that TCU is not extremely well conditioned and in shape, but you play in the desert night, it's the fourth quarter, and your defense has been on the field more than the other team. You're going to wear down. I think that's what happened to TCU, and that's why Arizona State, despite being down a touchdown going in the quarter, was able to find a way and pick up a really, really nice victory. And yeah, they lost week 2 at Mississippi State. Tough game, not an easy place to play necessarily. But boy, it feels like Arizona State, I don't know if they're necessarily a conference title contender again, but why on earth would I say that? I mean, they won it last year when nobody thought they were going to win. And they're finding ways to win the game right now. They've been a real pleasure to watch so far this season.
And I'll also add, like, that Mississippi State game is aging pretty well. They really should have beat Tennessee last week. And so it looks like that's the Bulldogs are coming alive. And the rush game is what, of course, what you have to worry about, because you've seen how they've been able to stretch the field, how Josh Hoover's been diligent when he's needed to be. But when you're up 3 scores, you got to be able to run the football. And when you get 50 total rush yards, excluding the sack yardage, which negative 38 yards in sack yardage isn't nothing. But that's what you're looking at. It's like you got to make things simple, and could be a learning experience. I mean, TCU hasn't had too many experiences where they're up 3 scores against a good team. I mean, you can get away with that, when you're playing the debut Bill Belichick North Carolina, or you're playing Tarleton State or whatever. But when you're playing a good team who's not going to go away quietly, you got to be able to eat some clock. And a time of possession, 35, almost 36 minutes for Arizona State, 24 minutes for TCU. So, I mean, that quick start doesn't mean anything when they're possessing it for almost 40 minutes of the 60-minute game.
And I thought TCU defensively, I thought they competed well, considering the circumstances they were put in. I mean, they had 14 sacks themselves, Brandon. They had 8 tackles for loss. They were able to force a turnover. Like, they played, I think, winning football for the majority of the night. I think they just wore down in the fourth quarter. I think that's really what it came down to at the end of the day. And again, Arizona State, long drive to tie the game. You have that turnover late that pretty much just allowed Arizona State to melt some clock. TCU couldn't do anything with it at the end. And again, for the Horned Frogs, again, this is a program that it's still amazing, in year 1 of Coach Sonny Dykes to go all the way to the national championship game. They went through some transition a little bit, but it feels like they've got the talent, Brandon, to be a good team, a great team. They have that, on paper, a great team. But that's a loss that's going to haunt them, considering that is the defending Big 12 champion. Felt like they had him on the ropes at home. To pretty good atmosphere in Tempe. But give Arizona State a lot of credit. They found a way to get it done. They're 2-0 in conference play. Again, at Utah in a couple of weeks. They get a bye week coming up this week. And they do have some serious opportunities coming up, including Texas Tech at home this month. So really exciting stuff ahead for the Sun Devils. Give them just the proper due. But tough loss for TCU. It felt like you take away those turnovers, a little better O-line play. Pretty winnable game, but again, that's part of playing in the desert.
Just a couple more games I want to dive into, but a couple of quickies. Baylor, Oklahoma State. Baylor rolled away 45-27 in the first game without Mike Gundy in seemingly since the Stone Age. Utah rolled West Virginia on the road. We thought that might be a sneaky game. Not sneaky at all. Utah rolled. They dominated. They bounced back well. Where I'll start next, Kansas State 34-20 over UCF. Are they back? Was this a get-right game, or are they still troublesome to you?
I'm still out on Kansas State, Brandon, just because they've had so many disappointments. But that said, this was a very positive game for them. UCF's been playing very positive football to start this season. You and I sang their praises after a really dominant win over a maybe shaky UNC team, but they took care of their business how they needed to. For K-State, it felt like this was a chance to start getting better in Big 12 play, and they were able to do just that. I thought opportunistic defensively. They were able to get multiple turnovers. Johnson was clean throughout the game. Dylan Edwards had a terrific game on the ground, and they were able to get 8 tackles for loss on the day, 3 sacks. Their offensive line only gave up 1 sack. So I think for K-State, a positive stepping stone forward in a game that, frankly, because if they lose that game at home, Brandon, it just feels like the season's about to torpedo itself. You just feel like now it's officially off the rails. Now they have a chance. They rode the ship. Get interesting game at Baylor this week. I'm really curious how that one will play out because I have no idea. But that said, they did get better. For UCF, there's no shame in this loss whatsoever, Brandon. Tough road game in Manhattan. And they did some good stuff. I mean, as a team, they ran for 205 yards on the day. Defensively, they were able to do some positive things with a couple of turnovers. That said, though, at the end of the day, QB play pretty shaky for UCF with multiple interceptions, and that's something they're going to have to clean up going forward. But I think the energy and intensity is there, and I think there is still more positive days than not for the Knights.
Yeah, it's so tough because, I mean, when you enter October with a losing record, it's so tough to be like, oh, this is a get-right game. They're back on track. I do like what I saw at Kansas State. Dylan Edwards looked like a superstar. Avery Johnson got involved in the run game more than what we've seen and took care of the football better. So I was like, those are the things that, I mean, if you have Dylan Edwards and he looks like that, after that first touch in the Iowa State game, how different does the season look? Tough draw, but I mean, as far as what they can reasonably accomplish, I guess they do just have the one conference loss.
Yeah, I mean,
Arizona State, that Arizona game. I don't think that was a conference game.
No, that was not an official conference game. So again, they're 1-1 in conference play, Brandon. And conference-wise, I mean, they've got kind of a schedule that's either that's a tough game or that's on paper it's a winnable game. I mean, they do have to go to Kansas. They do have to go really at Utah and at Baylor. But again, that's not necessarily terrifying road games. At home against Texas Tech. For K-State, there is still a lot on the table, even at 2-3. And again, Brandon, I think you and I both agree, this is a team that absolutely can still be an 8, 9, 10 win team, even where they're at currently in 2-3. I feel that's a bold take, but they have the QB play. I do feel they do have the weapons. I think they have a defense that does force turnovers. They have a good coaching staff. But the thing is, can they put it all together? And really the key is, do they just show up? I mean, they've just shown up too much this season, not really mentally in it. It's more a mental thing than necessarily a talent or physical thing for this Wildcat program.
Is Kansas State sneaky the path to multiple bids for the Big 12? I mean, if they could go on a run, win the Big 12, and then if you have like an 11-win Texas Tech or 11-win Iowa State, can you keep them out?
I mean, K-State absolutely could go on a wild run where maybe they can find a way to sneak in. Again, there's so many. I mean, we're not even remotely touching that yet, Brandon. Like they got to win a few more ball games probably before we even think about that. But K-State, I mean, there's still a lot on the table for this Wildcat program, even at 2-3. So it will be interesting to see how things break down. But again, Baylor, it's a wild game on Saturday because I feel like both programs, I feel like K-State's in a healthier spot still program-wise than Baylor, and yet Baylor's looked like the better team on the field throughout the majority of this year so far. So that will be an intriguing game on Saturday.
All I'm saying is that if they win out, they have that game against Texas Tech, they'll finish 8-1 in the league, go to Arlington, say Kansas State gets the tiebreaker over Texas Tech through whatever criteria they don't meet up. Maybe they win 11 games. I mean, can you got your Big 12 champion that's got to get in. And then you have 2 11-win Big 12 teams.
That sounds like a sounds like a 3-bid league to me.
11 wins should get you in. That's all I'm saying.
Should, but in this era, who knows? I mean, we love our 8-win teams too in power conferences. So don't forget them, Brandon. Those close losses, they mean something.
They mean something.
That's what I'm told.
Arizona, Iowa State. Iowa State, as you mentioned in our open, very methodical win over Arizona. Yeah. Arizona's looked good this year. Noah Fafita looks like he's back in prime form. Yeah. Does the needle move at all for Iowa State, or is this kind of just business as usual?
Well, I think it moves a little bit, Brandon, just because of how efficient they were throughout the game. I never felt like I never really felt like the game was ever in danger for them of losing. Like it felt like they had control for 60 minutes. And that is something, just as an Iowa State fan, you're not used to. You're not used to them just being in full control throughout a majority of the game. And that's exactly what they were able to do. Defensively, they were able to be very efficient, able to cause multiple interceptions from Fafita. Offensively, Brandon, they were pretty dynamic in the passing game. Rocco, 243 yards. The Benjamin Brahmer, tight end throw, longest tight end throw by a tight end in Big 12 history, happened on Saturday night for 45 yards. There you go, Brandon. There's your stat of the day.
Love that.
But again, there's still some things that I think are a little bit troubling. As a team, 47 carries for just 111 yards overall. Granted, that, less than ideal right there. Look, Arizona's defense was able to pull multiple sacks, 7 tackles for loss. I think that Iowa State's still working out some things on the offensive line, even with the 5-0 start. But you can't complain too much if you're an Iowa State fan. Home game, took care of their business. Really now the question going forward is that injury bug for them. It continues to pile up. It feels like more and more across the board. Heavy injuries in the secondary. You lose Conradi for the season in the kicker department. You're down to your 3rd-string kicker there. And
I didn't realize
we'll see how I believe he is. Yeah. So I think that's. That's it's a less than ideal kind of scenario where Iowa State's at in terms of an injury bug. But this program, they praise how much depth they have. Coach Campbell is very good at coaching up kids, and we'll see where they're at in a very, very interesting road test this week against Cincinnati. So, but for Iowa State, encouraging. For Arizona, man, they're a fascinating program, Brandon, because they have such a great quarterback in Fafita. But it feels like the rest of the program, they weren't ready to go for stretches of the game on Saturday night. Iowa State took advantage of that. But it's still a good Arizona team. You're not embarrassed that you lose to Iowa State on the road. There's no shame in that currently. But I think Arizona could have played with a little more gusto throughout certain stretches as well.
Don't have to spend too much time on this game, but Cincinnati 37-34 over Kansas turned into a track race. I mean, that's not a whole lot of points scored for over 1,100 yards, almost 1,200 yards exactly, between the two teams. I mean, absolute track meet. Brennan Sorsby, 338 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, no picks. 445 yards for Jalen Daniels, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, boy, it feels like one of those Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes matchups. I mean, those are crazy stats for both guys. Yeah.
I mean, Kansas receiver Emmanuel Henderson, Brandon, 5 catches for 214 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, he averaged 42 yards a catch. Like, that's insane. Like, for a receiver, and I mean, that doesn't happen. Like, Cincinnati, Cyrus Allen had 11 for 128 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, it was tough. And really the difference came down to is that Kansas had 1 fumble, Cincinnati didn't. And Cincinnati was able to find a way to win a significant victory, Brandon. I mean, really, big questions for Cincinnati the last few years have been, where are they at from an offensive standpoint? Can they have an offense that consistently produces points? They absolutely did on Saturday. And for them to march down the field under 2 minutes, 10 plays, 75 yards, and get that Walker 2-yard rushing touchdown to ultimately win the game was remarkably impressive for this Cincinnati team. And again, outside of a competitive week 1 loss against Nebraska, Cincinnati clearly has made some strides on paper of where they were even a year ago and definitely 2 years ago. There's no doubt, at least there. So it feels like the Bearcats are making some positive strides. But boy, for Kansas, considering how good of a day Jalen Daniels had, how good offensively they were, this is a pretty difficult loss, I think, for them, Brandon. Just lose at home. This is just one that you feel like you just had to have, and they didn't get it.
And I'm looking at Cincinnati's schedule because that was my big takeaway. Is I thought, I mean, you know what Jalen Daniels can do when he stays healthy. You've seen Lance Leipold put together some successful years at Kansas, but with Coach Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati, like, I haven't seen anything, and felt kind of like a panic hire at the time when Luke Fickell went to Wisconsin, and even though that's turning out so great for them up north, you had to figure things out. And Cincinnati, with Luke Fickell, you thought that they were going to come in and kind of be one of the power brokers in the Big 12 right out the gate. Not the case with the coaching change. And I mean, I thought he came in on one of the hotter seats in college football. I thought it was almost a formality that he'd be gone. 3-1's a good spot to be in. And of course, you lose to one of the best teams in the country in Nebraska week 1. Tough draw there in front of Taylor Swift. But I mean, absolutely taking care of business. And Brendan Sorsby looks like whatever ceiling you had for him coming into the season, he's reaching it. He's been outstanding. And you look at the schedule, they play UCF at home, go to Oklahoma State, play Baylor at Utah versus Arizona, BYU, TCU. So only one ranked team. Utah will probably get back ranked at some point. TCU could be. But, I mean, if you're able to put up, 4 touchdowns and 500 yards a game with just your quarterback, I mean, you're going to be in those games if you can get a few stops. And we talk about the power vacuum in the Big 12. Why not Cincinnati? Them and TCU are the only 2 teams, and I guess Arizona State now, to make the college football playoff within the Big 12. So,
yeah, I mean, they've done it before, Brandon. I mean, again, from a just standing standpoint as well, it's going to be fascinating to see just how the Big 12 continues to break down. Again, like, old school Big 12 when we were just at 10 teams just a few years ago. You and I were both fans of every team played.
What a beautiful run that was.
Oh, that was I will always cherish the 10-team Big 12 era just because it was fun to just see everybody year in, year out. Like, it was a blast to see that. And look, that's not the case anymore. Not everybody's going to see each other. You are going to have some weird conference records. But again, a lot of teams at 1-0, Brandon, only 2 teams currently 2-0 in the conference in Arizona State and Iowa State. And I mean, it does, like, every single year, and I think it's going to feel like this pretty much every year going forward. It just is wide open right now. And for a team like Cincinnati, just like other teams have to be licking, they've got to be licking their chops a little bit, thinking, hey, if we can go on a run, pull off a couple of upsets along the way, why on earth can we not be in the Big 12 championship game? Why on earth can we not be competing for a spot in the college football playoff? And that's the beautiful thing about this new era where, there are more teams that feel it's accessible to reach that. I do think that helps with recruiting. I think that helps with fan bases carrying, all of that. But it is interesting to see just where the sport currently continues to evolve. You and I have talked about a lot in this podcast, Brand, about how it continues to evolve. But core for this game, Cincinnati made some clutch plays down the stretch offensively. Defensively, I don't think they had that great of a day, especially in their pass defense. They got shredded quite a bit, but offense took care of them, found enough winning plays, and got it done.
Last game of the Big 12 slate, BYU on the road to Colorado. This one might be a little bit on me. I'll hand up. Colorado went up 14-0. I have some friends who were also Broncos fans and had to endure some rough Pat Shurmur offenses. So I sent just a simple text message, Pat Shurmur masterclass in Boulder. And then from there, they got outscored. What did that end up being? 24-7 throughout the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and by the way, that is the exact MO for Pat Shurmur. He's got a couple of good scripted plays. Now they got outscored 24-7 in that span at Folsom Field to drop the game 24-21, going to 2 and 3. I mean, yeah, that's a Pat Shurmur experience, that's for sure.
Do you want to hear the Pat Shurmur NFL coaching record for teams that he coached for an entire season? He coached four full seasons in the NFL. I do, right in front of me.
Oh, my gosh.
Cleveland for 2 years, 2011, 2012, went 4-12 and 5-11.
Nice.
And then he coached the Giants for 2 years in 2018, 2019, and went 5-11 and 4-12.
Okay.
So there you go. That's it. His career win-loss record is 19-46 in the NFL.
That checks out.
So, but I personally, Brendan, have no issues with Pat Shurmur. He was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings in 2017 when we went on our bizarre NFC Championship run with Case Keenum. And I thought Pat Shurmur's a genius. I thought he's a good guy to me. He's an idiot to everyone else, rightfully so. But he's a genius to me.
Yep.
Maybe not in Denver.
Makes one of us.
In Denver.
Definitely not in Denver.
Maybe not in Denver, but I have no problem with Pat Shurmur. So, but yeah, it's wild. He went from college, he was in the NFL all these years. NFL kind of decided you're not good enough anymore, and then he went to Colorado, and Deion Sanders like, hey, you know what, Pat? Why don't you be offensive coordinator for me? So just pretty wild, the Pat Shurmur experience. But for BYU, jokes aside, I mean, found a way to get it done, Brandon. Give them credit. Pretty good atmosphere in Boulder. And for BYU, they stay undefeated. They pick up a very nice conference victory in a game that, on paper was going to be close. They got out to a slow start. Got to win, though, Brandon. They've got to feel really, really good that they hung in there, weathered the storm early on, and then relied on that defense that was able to get 3 sacks, forced tackles for loss of the night, forced an interception as well. Give them credit where credit's due, and picking up a really nice road victory.
Last thing I want to get into, just real quick before we get into our pick'em. So you look at the Big 12, and there's the knock on the Big 12 is that there's a lot of good teams, but there's no great teams. But I think that's so beautiful in this new landscape of college football. And I'm just looking through these teams, and we talked about Cincinnati's hot start. We've talked about Kansas's optimism. We've talked about Arizona getting off to a 3-0 start before a tough loss in Ames. TCU back to 3-1. So obviously you have some cases like Oklahoma State. They're not too happy. They had to fire their longtime head coach Mike Gundy. Kansas State's not happy to be 2-3 by any stretch of the imagination. But even other schools that might not be near the top of the standings at the end of the year, UCF, West Virginia, both implementing new coaches. How many of the Big 12 teams and their fan bases feel bad outside of Kansas State and Oklahoma State right now? And even Kansas State, I mean, you look at that game against UCF, like if we can get that, I mean, they can still salvage the season. Not like a Big 12 title run, but, make it respectable and try again next year. Not like you're going to make any wholesale changes.
Yeah.
But, like, there just seems like so much upward trajectory in the Big 12, and I'm curious if they have the most optimistic fans in the country just because of how things are shaping up in the league.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, because we were talking about, for example, Oklahoma State, getting rid of Coach Gundy last week. We are talking about jobs that are going to be opening up around the country. And again, this week alone, another major job comes available at Arkansas with the firing of Sam Pittman, which, as an Arkansas fan, thank you for everything, Pittmaster. It was time, but thank you at least for showing pride in the state, in the program. And even though it didn't work out ultimately, I'm never going to hate the Pittmaster. He loves the state of Arkansas, loves that program. Players loved him. Not enough wins in the end, but nothing but love there. But that said, Brandon, for a lot of these Big 12 programs, they do have to be feeling pretty good. We have 4 ranked teams currently in the top 25 right now. And you do look across the board. We do have a lot of programs with, 0 losses, just 1 loss. And you do mention kind of those 2 programs that our fans aren't going to be probably ecstatic where their team is right now in K-State. Oklahoma State, probably the clear and obvious one. But in general, there is optimism. I think the only other team, that might have a little bit of griping just on how things are playing out, maybe West Virginia, just a little bit, just because the way they're losing, like it has been kind of, a little bit just disappointing for Rich Rod, just that they're like, there's nothing wrong with losing, especially in a rebuilding era. But man, it feels like they're not competitive in certain games either, including last week against BYU. So that might be the one fan base that might be just a little disappointed with how kind of this opening year is going so far with Rich Rod. Plenty of time to turn that around. I know Colorado has a losing record, but I also remember Colorado when they were just bottom of the bottom 5 years ago and nobody was showing up to their games. So I don't view that as a scenario as like they're in bad shape necessarily. But the rest of these programs, I do think have to be feeling like, hey, we are on decent footing or solid footing. And that can change quickly. Baylor could lose a couple games and I could be, put
That's
them
true.
on the list. That's
Baylor's
like the world of football. That's like the world of college football. Narratives can change quickly. But that said, you're right, Brandon. You look at the overall health of the majority of the programs. I think most of the programs have to be happy with what the direction of their program is compared to, you mentioned like SEC. Florida fans aren't happy with where their program's going. Arkansas fans aren't happy. Auburn fans are like in limbo right now. They don't know how to feel about their program.
Not happy. Whatever they're feeling, it's not happy.
Whatever they're happy. Yeah, that's true. That's just facts. Kentucky, who knows? You look at the Big Ten, same thing. UCLA fans, for whatever fans they have, they're not exactly ecstatic.
All 14 of them are steaming.
All 14 are ticked. Wisconsin fans are not happy at all. That's a traditionally proud program. They're not happy with the direction they're going right now. Purdue's lost. There's a lot of programs, I feel, in those big conferences. I look at the ACC too. A lot of programs in that conference too that they're not happy. Their fans aren't happy with where their trajectory is going. I do feel if you look at just those big 4 schools, I can make a pretty strong argument that the Big 12, in terms of overall just fan base attitude of is their program going in the right direction, I can make an argument the Big 12 leads the country in just that fan bases feel their program is going in the right direction.
And just programs stock up.
Right.
Yeah. Even like Houston, like they finished 4-8 last year. Their stock is going up.
Yeah. I'm not saying we have like the cream of the crop programs nationally across the board. What I am saying though is I think we have in general pretty satisfied fan bases.
Yeah.
I think fan bases that are happy to have, at least for now, Lord knows what's going to happen a month from now, Brandon. But for now, at least some stability in the conference, and conference-wise. And I think that means something too. So, again, even for programs that maybe on paper still are learning or they're still rebuilding, like in general, majority of Big 12 fan bases have to be pretty happy with where their program or their team is at in overall.
I don't think this is going to happen, but I just had this thought, like, what if Cincinnati does rattle off 10-9 wins? Their stock is all the way through the roof. Wisconsin makes a coaching change. They pick up Scott Satterfield. And just a constant revolving Cincinnati to Madison pipeline. there's no shot that happens, but I think it'd be pretty funny if it did.
Boy, it'd be kind of nice to think about. There'd be no question about that. Yeah, and I mean that's that's not the conference we cover, but again, it is interesting to see just seeing that fan base frustrated with on paper a great hire in Luke Fickell, and I think it's showing more and more, and you're learning this. I mean, as an Arkansas game on Saturday, talked to a bunch of people about that. Like more and more coaches are learning, hey, you know what? Like just because these are big programs or like on paper they've historically been good or great or whatever, like sometimes it's okay just to stay where you're at.
Yep.
Kind of, you can live the dream in a lot of different places. And I think a lot of Big 12 coaches are learning that. Lance Leipold is learning that at Kansas. Matt Campbell at Iowa State. Climate at K-State, I think, has kind of learned that throughout the year. Coach Whittingham out in Utah, I mean, he's definitely a coach that has built stability in that program, no doubt about it. Heck, they're even likable again, which is hilarious. So I think, I think fan bases have to be happy in general with where their program is in general, unless you are Oklahoma State right now and K-State, but that's more just based on what's been going on this season for them.
Looking at our pick'em real quick before I pull up the results, I do got to say we did have somebody put up a perfect 8-0 record.
Oh gosh.
And it was me. It was me. 8-0. We very similar board throughout. You had Colorado over BYU, Kansas over Cincinnati. Both very could have absolutely gone the other way. I'm cutting into that deficit. That's just a 3-point race now, which it's early, but this might be our best race yet. I feel like it was about this time 2 years ago I started pulling away a little bit. This time last year you started pulling away a little bit, and there's not a whole lot of points out for grabs throughout the Big 12 slate now that we're in conference play. But I mean, it's a neck and neck race, same records,
Just salute Brandon. Honest to God, I really thought because we had two
differentiating games, I thought we'd both go 7-1. I thought, probably BYU, they are the favorite. They'll probably find a win-win. But boy, Kansas, I really felt pretty good about. I think they'll take care of their business more than likely, and they did not. Cincinnati was able to find it. So,
well done, Brandon. I can't hate. I just got to tip the cap that way and move on to week 5.
I will say, if you told me on Saturday, once these picks were already locked in, that Kansas was going to put up almost 600 yards of offense, Jalen Daniels would throw for 444 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, I would have been like, I'm toast. There's no shot they lose that game at home. But that's how the cookie crumbles goes.
Yeah, it's college football at its finest, Brandon. We both know it.
We got a fresh slate, fresh opportunities for the both of us to do some damage. West Virginia, BYU, Kansas State, Baylor, Iowa State, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, Arizona, Texas Tech, Houston, Kansas, UCF, Colorado, TCU. Fresh slate here. We'll start in kind of the same succession that we always go. Our most confident game. I think it's 7 games total. If I'm not, 7 games total. So I'll get things started. We talked a lot about the improvements of Houston. If Texas Tech is as real as I think we all think that they are, 11th ranked team in the country, they should be able to take care of this Houston team. They won't be down for forever, but I think they'll be down for at least this week.
Yeah, I have to respect that take a lot, Brandon.
I admittingly probably will go Texas Tech eventually, but I am going to start in Provo.
Really like BYU at home. It's tough
not to. Again, West Virginia. Again, we are one of the Rich Rod era.
They've already gotten one of their major wins this season. They beat Pitt at home. That's a huge win just to take care of the backyard brawl.
Yeah.
But that said,
last 2 weeks they haven't
shown inspiring play that makes me think they'll win on the road. So I've got BYU for
7. And then for 6, tough call. I'm going to have to ride the Oklahoma State is down train. I'm going to go to Tucson, and I'm going to take the Arizona Wildcats, and I will take 6 for them.
I like it. An interesting matchup. Arizona State to bounce back. Just playing out through the board. I think I'll also take my BYU pick in Provo. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than BYU's looked really good. West Virginia's looked not really good. Feels like an easy one there. 6 gets interesting. I think I'll also roll Arizona here. Just I still haven't seen any real improvement from Oklahoma State. You think maybe they sneak up and nip at Baylor's heels with the interim coach. Not quite. Could be a rough week for Oklahoma State. Could be a field day for Noah Fafita to put on some good NFL caliber tape.
Can't hate that, Brandon. And Oklahoma State, I thought actually had a very competitive first half against Baylor. I thought they showed great spirit at home, but it just doesn't feel like they have the QB play and the horses to hang with teams, for the most part right now. I think at home maybe eventually, but on the road I don't see it either. Boy, now it gets fun. You know what? I'm going to take Texas Tech too. Let's get them out of the way for 5. I do think Houston's going to make this game potentially interesting. But that said, I mean, it's hard not to like the Red Raiders where they're at. That's a situation for them right there. And then for a 4-point game, oh man, this gets more and more interesting. I'm going to head down to Fort Worth. I am going to take the TCU Horned Frogs against Colorado. Kind of curious about the mental fortitude of both these teams. Both teams close losses this last week. Who can bounce back from that? Fun coaching matchup between Coach Sanders, Coach Dykes, and a reminder, Brandon, Colorado played TCU and Coach Sanders' very first Colorado game pulled off a stunning upset right on that field many years ago in Fort Worth, excuse me. So it will be interesting to see just reliving if he can relive old memories or if TCU can find a way through.
Yeah, I'm right there with that's exactly where I'm going with my 4-point game too. Much different setting this go around. You got Josh Hoover out and about doing his thing. I think he'll bounce back after a tough game against Arizona State last week. And Colorado doesn't have Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter this go around, so that I think goes in TCU's favor. And then for my 3-point game, starting to get into the nitty gritty, I think this is where I'll go. Kansas going to the bounce house. I mean, not an easy environment to play, but just based on what we saw from those two teams last week, Kansas should have a good advantage, and I think they get it done in Disney World.
Yeah, you and I are on the same page, Brandon. I'm also going to take Kansas for 3, and really just because of 2 words, Jalen Daniels. I mean, Jalen Daniels, Brandon's been great so far this season. I mean, he really has, 1,262 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. And I've got to say, Brandon, if Kansas is undefeated, this guy would be being viewed as a Heisman candidate right now. He's playing some great football at the QB position. I think his teammates rally around this week, find a way, so I've got them for 3. Nitty gritty continues. I am going to head down to Waco for Kansas State versus Baylor. This is really the unique game of the week, and for me. And you know what, Brandon? I'm feeling risky. I'm going to take Kansas State on the road. I'm going to give some love to them, and I'm going to give them 2 points. So I'm going to go with
that. I have no idea. Baylor, I think, is a favorite, but you know what?
K-State, let's roll the dice. They've got talent. There's no doubt about that. Fun matchup, QB-wise, as well.
Very fun matchup. That's also where I have to go for my 2-point game. And I'm also going to take Kansas State. I really just haven't seen much from the Baylor defense, especially seeing how good Dylan Edwards looked. It looked like he's healthy and right back to hitting the ground running. And that makes things a lot easier for Avery Johnson. That's the whole. I mean, once you get once you get a running game like that, like they had last week, like it just makes everything else so much easier. And I just haven't seen anything from Baylor's defense to indicate that they're able to stop that. And so I think they pick up the win, get seemingly right back on track in the Big 12 race. And this one I needed to save for last because it's not a great outlook for the Clones. A couple of more DB injuries, Karate out once again, and Sorsby's been a nightmare. So I'm gonna go with the Bearcats at home for the 1 point game here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Brandon, I'm going to go Iowa State just because I can. It's a free country, one. But two, you know what? Iowa State is still a great team. Their injury bug is no joke. But I'm going to hope
And see that they can get their depth. And
I decided to mix it up this week. I want a perfect week this week just so I can maybe, salute to Amos Alonzo Stagg and say I'm almost at your level. Legend. Almost.
Legend.
I'll never get to his legend. Yeah, I'll never be Amos, sadly. Can't be.
You know what they say, Drew Russell. You strive to be Amos Alonzo Stagg, and you may not get there, but you end up with the stars. You end up on the moon, or however that analogy goes.
Oh well, yeah, no, it's one of my favorites, and one that people get so mad at me. I'm like, I got some great advice for you. Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. And Brent, I love that quote, and I always get eye rolls every single time from people. I'm like, why? Like, it's such a corny phrase. I think it's great.
Well, but isn't it the other way? Because the moon's closer than any stars are. And like, you shoot for the stars, you might end up on the moon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I don't know what, insert name here was thinking when they put that quote together.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're onto something there, Brandon. Because, the stars are definitely, galaxies away. Like, what are they thinking on that? So,
shoot for the stars, end up in the deep, scary, freezing cold void of
space. That doesn't hit that. That's just not the same.
Yeah, it doesn't. They don't talk about the deep void of space, but they talk about the moon and the stars.
Yeah, no. We'll talk about the rings of Saturn all day, and big shout out as well to Pluto, forever a planet to me.
Always. Well, Drew Russell, another slate of Big 12 football. Any final thoughts before we head off for another week?
Yeah, two things, Brandon. First, in the world of Big 12, continuing to be really interesting league. And I am curious to see where I think that Iowa State-Cincinnati game definitely is the most interesting to me for the weekend, not just because I'm an Iowa State fan, but I am curious where Cincinnati is as a program as well. Can they build off of a nice win on the road against Kansas? This is a winnable home game just because of Iowa State's injuries, and you're playing in front of your home fans. So that'll be interesting to me. Number two, I want to talk about postseason baseball really quick. Great to have October baseball back. Great series across the board. Really enjoyed them. I do have a major complaint, though, Brandon Shanahan, and that is we get too many teams in the postseason. I'm just going to be honest. Look, Detroit Tigers, they had a nice season. They were great. They won points throughout the season. They faltered badly throughout the stretch. And in the old playoff format, they would have not made the playoffs. They would have been out because Cleveland won the division. But new format, they get in as the final wild card, play Cleveland, and in a random 3-game series, pretty much anything can happen in the world of baseball. They're able to get a win. Happy for Detroit. They earned the series win. They were the better team for 3 games. No debate on that. But I've got to say, to the world of Major League Baseball, I'm heavily disappointed that I feel like you've kind of not ruined your regular season, but watered it down like every other professional sports league. Shame on you, MLB. But that said, thank God October's back. I can't wait for divisional baseball.
Well, and even you got the season on the line between the Red Sox and the Yankees, and it's just like a casual game 3 on a Thursday evening. And that's just what it's got to be when you have all these games.
No, and it's interesting too, because MLB's tried a lot of different things with, for years when you and I were growing up, Brandon, it was 8 teams, you had your 3 division winners, and you had your wild card team. And it was divisional immediately for 5. I personally really liked it. I like the division winners obviously got in. I like that wild card aspect. I thought it was fair. When they decide, hey, we want to add, the wild card game, let's add an extra team. Let's just do a 1-game wild card. That was bananas. I didn't love it, but it did make for some intriguing baseball games throughout the years. There were some classics for sure. You don't want to water down your product, Brandon. And I think, even like I remember college football playoff when, I was heavily against initially go grade 4 to 12 because I thought we're watering down our regular season. Not that we're rewarding mediocrity, but like I liked that you had to be nearly perfect to get into the college football.
A lot more mulligans out there for sure.
Right. I mean, there's no question. And I mean, it's worked out at least through a year, maybe not forever. But, baseball, I think they're doing the same thing. It does irritate me a little bit. And again, baseball, like every other sport, has its issues. They've done a lot of good stuff last couple of years, especially with the pitch clock. Pace of play has been a lot better. I think a lot of the rule changes have been really good. At the same time, though, like you can't, I think they're just letting too many teams in the playoffs. And again, it's just for TV revenue. It's extra money. It's easy money. I get it. But I don't know. It's weird playing 162 games, winning your division, and then you're out in 3 games. I have a problem with that. So that's my take, Brendan.
That's what bothering me. That's Russell's ramblings here this week.
I think that's plenty for us. Another great week of Big 12 football coming up. Big 12 hoops right around the corner. Please, if you're the praying type, pray for our fantasy teams. We're both in trouble quite a bit, so we're grinding through it. But like, follow, subscribe, all the things. We're back on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all of the above.